hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Bottom Line. Thank you for supporting us. Please hit the notification bell, subscribe, and then hit the notification bell on YouTube. That's how we get this out to more people and we rise up in the search list, because we really believe that some of the information here, hopefully all of it, can really help people, and you can help them by hitting the notification bell and knowing when we're posting something, which is normally twice a week. And we've been traveling for the last 2 weeks, so glad to bring you this show. I want to dive right in. Right at the top of the hour, I want to thank Patriot Mobile. Thank you, Glenn Story and the people. Go to patriotmobile.com/thebottomline. You're going to get free activation. Patriot Mobile is once again going back to the border with us to help rescue and save children. They've gone to school boards with us to protect children in the classroom. So I highly encourage you to check out Patriot Mobile, the only Christian conservative cell phone network in the United States. And a couple of things I learned this morning from Glenn Story and Scott and his team is that Patriot Mobile, you can literally either use the networks of AT&T, T-Mobile, or Verizon being on Patriot Mobile. So you really are going to get the best service and cell phone coverage in your area. So check them out. If you're a veteran, they're really going to take care of you. So thank you so much. Let's dive in. I want to talk about something here that's really on my heart. I really feel like we need an episode to talk about hope, to bring people hope. There's so much bad news out there. It's all social media is an absolute mess. It's a frenzy. It's the same information regurgitated by 500 influencers, and I just don't want to do that. I can't. We got to be original. We have to think outside of the norm and the spectrum. We have to approach subjects with different angles, having different conversations, going after the bottom line. That's why it's called that. So I want to talk about hope. You know, God says a people without vision will perish. A man without vision will perish. A double-minded man cannot be blessed, etc., etc. So when I look at culture, we're going to look at some statistics here today. I'm concerned that in the middle of the fight, and in the middle of people saying we're going to fight for our freedom, we're going to defend America, we're going to defend the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Second Amendment, freedom of speech, we're going to defend our peer group, our race, the conversation about BLM, defend something. Within the defend what we value conversation, I'm finding that people are getting more and more hopeless. So it's not like the rally cry, bringing people together behind a cause, is bringing them hope. So something is missing. And I could probably argue that it's purpose and conviction, that it's easy today to jump on a bandwagon and follow a mission. And I think we talked about that. Predominantly Gen Z is being targeted by groups to join their mission and their movement because Gen Z moves. But I want to talk about the hopelessness that comes with it. I'm not seeing a rise in hope, even while people are fighting. So how effective are you going to be when you fight and you're not fighting from a position of victory or position of hope? If you're fighting, but you're really hopeless, and I want to pull some stats up real quick that I just asked Rebecca to pull. I want to look at just depression. And of course, we're going to see this graph that we just pulled up. Yeah, if you can zoom in on that, that would be great. This graph shows us, as to be expected, if you look at, January 25, 2020 to January 30th, depression rate goes up 27.6 to 29% of all Americans. That includes children, adults. And then there's a dip. And then it really spikes and rises through 2020. And that's probably a direct correlation of false hope within COVID. Don't worry, if you get vaccinated, you can't get the illness. Or don't worry, we're going to flatten the curve. Or don't worry, it's going to take 6 weeks for us and we're through this thing. Or don't worry, it's going to be herd immunity. And then people get a hope and then it tanks and it just spikes over 30%. When you start talking about over 30% of Americans are depressed, and let's argue 360 million people, you're starting to talk about 100 million people. 100 million people depressed. And then if we pull those numbers and then we correlate that with the suicide rate that just went through the roof through COVID, it's understandable when you lock people down in their home and they can't move and the body doesn't function right and there's no interaction, right? And there's no human engagement and what I would say challenge, where you're challenged to overcome fear and obstacle and trial and dream and you're just locked up. I think we would understand that happens. But let's look at it. As I looked at it, it falls to around 20%, which is still a super high number by 2021. But now something interesting is happening. Here we're climbing again in 2022. We've now surpassed the level of depression where we were before COVID started. So I asked myself why. People are hopeless. Sure, we've got elections coming. I understand it. Next, year in a couple of days. I get that. I understand election cycle drives anxiety, etc. But I think it is the inflation rate. I think it's the uncertainty of the economy. I think it's the paycheck not going as far as it used to go. I think it's the fact, for the first time in a long time, that you can't escape the dismal condition that we're in. You can escape it by turning the news off. You can escape it by not going on Instagram and not going on Twitter, but you can't escape it if you stare at it at the gas pump. It's literally there. And I think I can almost 100% certainly attribute a heightened anxiety because people can't get away from it. They can't look away. There's no see no evil, hear no evil, because it's at the gas pump. They maybe don't know when the price of eggs go up because they don't shop at the same spot. We know that with produce. People shop between 2 and 5 different grocers. They maybe don't notice, other things that are, on auto bill pay that are going up. But standing at that gas pump, staring at numbers running, tick, 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 and watching them go up and go, dang it, it was $40 last time, now it's $50. Now it's $80. There's a psychological event that happens. But I can tie that to Scripture. What you behold, you become. What you place in front of your eyes is why I say don't get stuck in media and news cycles and just 4.5 hours a day on social media, just reading more and more of the same. Open your mind up, not to other ideas, but to other things in life. Go play a sport. Go spend time gardening. Go for a walk. Go for a run. Play games. Challenge yourself mentally. Have intellectual conversations. Yes, engage in politics. Talk about your faith. Because it creates balance. When everything is hyper-focused in one area, it's like focusing light. You're creating a laser. You're gonna end up with a hole. Something's going to burn. And I'm thinking we're burning. While we're saying we're fighting for our families, people are hopeless. The depression rate is going back up over 24% again. That is higher than we were in May 2020 in a lockdown. And we're not in a lockdown. So something broke, something is amiss, and I boil it all down to purpose. A people without vision will perish. People don't have purpose. So another stat I asked Rebecca to pull up. Just pull up the following one. This is by PRB, a study. If you don't mind scrolling through this for me, Rebecca. Keep going. There was a graph and a stat somewhere. Maybe it wasn't this one. Yep, there it is. Okay. Some fast facts by NAMI, the organization. This is their NAMI's fast facts and stats. 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience mental illness each year. Pause. 1 in 5. Again, 360 million Americans. We are saying adults, so let's go 50% of that. So 130 million plus Americans, and then 1 in 5 of them experience mental illness. I want to pause there for a second. Don't take that graph off. Now we know they're redefining mental illness. So because you don't like the stat, just change what it means. Change the definition. And we can't. We have to go look at mental condition historically, mental illness, and we have to come to the harsh reality that we have a massive mental illness problem in the United States. But I don't think it just starts with mental illness. I think it starts with depression, isolation, the lack of communicating your pain points. You know how many Americans today do not talk about what bothers them? The fastest growing personality type, not even that it's a personality type, but it's becoming like a disposition, is introverted. To not talk about what's going on, to keep it to yourself. People now don't want to say what they believe because they're afraid in the public sector people will cancel them for a belief system. They don't want to say what they like. They don't want to say what they dislike. So it's all becoming just close in and become an island of information. And don't talk to anybody. Just shake your head yes and shake your head no when everybody else does the same, and just blend in. It's like the movie The Island. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Island. But there's a movie, The Island, where everybody dresses the same shoes, same shirts, and then there's these two people that are breaking rank. They're asking questions. And then all the other people on the island point at them, almost like imposter, thinker. I'm saying today in America, if you think for yourself, the whole world is looking at you, pointing, going, thinker, freedom of speech, free thinker, like it's this bastardized sin to think for yourself and to ask questions. I had someone this morning send me the most insane scenario through text message, and they said, should we ask questions? And I go, yeah, you should ask questions. Of course you should ask questions. Not just ask questions, sound the alarm. But beyond that, talk about what's going on inside your heart. I want you to be filled with hope. You're not going to be filled with hope if we read statistics like this. 1 in 5 American adults experience mental illness each year. 1 in 20 U.S. adults experience serious mental illness. Now, who's determining mental illness from serious mental illness? I don't know. Is it serious mental illness to drive a car through a group of people? Yeah, I would argue so. Is it a mental illness? Is there something really mentally going on with you and wrong when you are willing to start cutting off body parts? Let's just call a spade and talk about what we're talking about here. Some dysphoria, something is causing you to mutilate yourself, cut off body parts. Shouldn't we as a culture ask, whoa, hold on, let's ask a question. Something's not right. I don't know, man. I'm not seeing lions chewing a leg off. I'm not seeing an elephant, taking its tusk and just delimbing itself. I don't know, the animal kingdom, I'm not seeing them like you're just deciding, no, I don't need this paw. But we have children coerced by adults that are literally cutting body parts off. They call it top surgery. Double mastectomies at 12. Eternal implications. That's not an oopsie with a redo. You're cutting off body parts. What would we do if a 12-year-old girl or boy today said, you know what? I believe that my arms are too long. I should have 2 long legs and 2 little stumpy arms like a kangaroo. I'm going to cut my arms off and shorten them. What would society say if that was the news headline? 12-year-old decides to cut her arms off because she identifies with kangaroos. She doesn't want to have long arms. Should we not, as a society, go, whoa, hold up, stop the bus, get this child help, let's investigate what in the world is going on inside that child's mind? And then, what's going on inside that child's circle of influence? Who are the voices influencing this child? Who in the world endorsed this? Who said that's a good idea? We are, in fact, people that catch things. We are taught, but a lot is caught. Where did she see this? Who modeled it? Where did she read about this? Shouldn't we as a society and a culture go, whoa, this is not normal? Okay, so why is it normal for a 12-year-old to have a double mastectomy? It's not. It's not normal. I argue it is a result of a mental condition. It is a result of something that starts maybe as loneliness, isolation, confusion about identity and personality, being excluded. It turns into depression. It turns into manic depression. It turns into self-harm, which manifests as a mental illness, and then somehow from 1 in 5 to 1 in 20 goes to a serious mental illness. Like if I tell you, I'm pretty confident, no, I'm serious. What is the determining factor? What is a serious mental illness today? Because I'm watching a whole lot of crazy run around in the U.S. and it's supported and it's endorsed. I consider it a mental illness to think that as a governor of a state, you shouldn't prosecute rape. That's Governor Pritzker, J.B. Pritzker in Illinois. I think he's got a mental problem. Because somehow in his universe and the influence, those who, his circle of influence, they've convinced him that a rapist shouldn't be prosecuted. And he's making it make sense to him. No, that's a mental problem. He's got emotional, mental, he's justifying rape to the point of not prosecuting it. Never mind, they're also not going to justify second degree, also not going to prosecute, but justify second degree murder. You don't think that's a mental illness? We don't think society should say, whoa, stop. But you're going to have people a number of days from now that are going to vote for J.B. Pritzker to stay the governor of Illinois and have this act January 1st go into law in Illinois where second degree murder is not prosecuted. If you murder somebody while intoxicated, you're not going to be prosecuted. So you don't like somebody in Illinois, just get hammered. Just snort some coke. Rape is not going to be prosecuted. You know what we deal with in sex trafficking? Rape. How are you going to stop sex trafficking of children if you don't prosecute rape? Where's the statutory rape law? I consider that a mental problem. It's a mental illness by the leadership that think that they can justify that. I surely would classify that as a mental illness. This is a problem. So then why are people not in an uproar about this? Because I firmly believe most of Americans are dealing with some form of depression. And when you're depressed, you grow inward, not outward. You're not open to ideas. You're not open to conversation. You're not talking about your own pain points. You're becoming a shell of yourself. You're like a turtle pulling its head in the shell, shying away from conflict. You're not going to defend the voiceless. You're not. You're barely surviving. And I can't have you be that. Not our viewers. Our viewers need to be liberated. You need to be set free. You need to be filled with hope. You need to be able to go out there and stick your neck out for a stranger. Not hide in a shell. And then open your mouth and speak. Speak when you're in pain. Well, that's very dangerous. I may get rejected. Get rejected then. Somebody will listen. It is way worse to stay silent. It's a cancer that'll eat you alive, and you end up as a statistic. 1 in 6 youth, age 6 through 17, experience a mental health disorder. I mean, you pause the bus. 1 in 6? There's 2.8 million kids in school in the state of Texas, from K through 12. 2.8 million, 1 in 6, that is a tremendously large number of children with mental illness. Hold up. Pause. Were they born with mental illness? I argue no. It's the conditions that we as adults set for culture. And we allow culture to be steered by evil, and kids can't handle it. So if I'm saying 1 in 6 children is struggling with mental health disorder in America, and now we want to sprinkle in a conversation of gender fluidity, now the child's got to juggle, am I a boy? Is it okay for me to think I'm a boy? No. We're going to frown upon you if you say you're a Caucasian white male. That child's going to develop a mental disorder. No question. And it'll be severe, but it's going to start as depression, loneliness, exile, being silenced, being voiceless. And all the way Satan is playing games in the mind, and Satan is contorting and twisting the mind and twisting God's words. 50% of all lifetime mental illness begins by age 14. And 75% by age 24. Think of that stat. If we say, okay, 50% of all mental illness in people start at age 14. That's interesting. That's through puberty. The average age of sex trafficking victims in America are girls age 12. So you see how that stat directly correlates? Directly correlates. It's an identity issue. And when people come in and they rob your identity, or they give you a false identity, or peer pressure, coercion, force, fraud of culture, say, no, you must think this way. Can't be a thinker. You just got to group think. And as you group think, you lose your identity. As you group think, you lose your personality, your uniqueness, your contribution to culture, your contribution to society, why you are valuable to your peer group, your friendship circle. You lose all of that because now it's group think. It's just we're all the same. And what sets in? Loneliness, depression, self-harm, self-hatred, boom, mental illness. Now you sprinkle in a little sexual confusion, a little sexual harassment, trafficking, coercion online, self-exploitation, and you have the walking dead in America. See, I've come to the conclusion the show The Walking Dead is not that far from the truth. We have predominantly, maybe over 50% of Americans are zombies. Spiritually, metaphysically, emotionally. Dead as a doornail. Can't feel compassion, can't feel for people, don't have the capacity to take another news headline of a city burning, are completely numb to madness, numb to pain, numb to how far they've drifted, have built a love affair with dysfunction, a love affair with depression. Learn how to manage depression. Stuck in it. Not climbing out. Just saying, this is my life. This is where I am. 14 and mentally ill. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among people aged 10 through 14. I said earlier, when you look at some of these stats, culture should say, whoa, stop a bus. A child's trying to cut body parts off. What do you think comes before suicide? When you start talking about the second leading cause of death to children aged 10 through 14 is suicide. It doesn't start with suicide. It starts with isolation, loneliness, depression, self-harm. Can't talk to anybody. There's nobody. You know how sad my heart gets, and yours should, when you think for a second, stop your world and your universe and think, there's one 10-year-old right now as we're speaking that believes that he or she, yes, he or she, has nobody to talk to. Not a one person that can help them stay alive another day. The lonely of lonely that is for a 10-year-old child alone should tell us to be more responsible with children in our culture. If there was one, it's the leading cause of their death. Not COVID, by the way. How much have we talked about COVID and children? What did the CDC just do 2 weeks ago? They put the COVID vaccine in what? In the vaccination schedule for all children, officially. What's big biotech doing in Dallas, Texas? Bringing biotech into the school system to get your kids' data to be able to read their medical conditions, to probably prescribe medicine. What did we do in COVID? Children. Vaccinate the children. Meanwhile, COVID's not the leading cause of death. Oh, far from it. It's almost nothing. You can't even find it on the spectrum for children. But the leading cause of death is suicide. Suicide. which, by the way, increased because we locked the kids in houses. Suicide, which, by the way, increased because we've sexualized the children. Now a 12-year-old girl walks into her school, and the naked picture she sent her boyfriend, who told her that this is love, because culture says if you love me, you'll watch porn and you'll make porn on yourself. Her boyfriend now distributed that picture to 500 of his friends. She's now called a word I will not utter. She's now shamed, condemned, broken goods, washed up. Every bad guy is now gunning for her because they think they can get some. Culture tells her, are you really a girl? Culture tells her, well, COVID's hunting you. She knows, I got other problems. Can't talk about them. Because then you're a thinker. You're a thinker. So what does she do? She doesn't talk about them. So she takes a blade and she starts cutting herself. She burns herself. Oh, that's right. These are cases we work all the time. That doesn't last very long. Because the dopamine that keeps her alive at this point, sex does it for a while. Pornography does it for a while. Self-harm does it for a while. Drugs do it for a while. Yet she gets more silent. And all of a sudden, her voice is completely extinguished. There's a faint hint of it in her memory. And the evil's voice is on her. You don't deserve to live. It'll be better if you end it. The world don't appreciate you. No one's for you. No one will understand. They won't miss you. You know that 13-year-old told me that the world won't miss him? That her siblings will not miss her? That her dad and mom will not miss her? I had to stare into the eyes of a 13-year-old that convicted tell me this. Told me how she's planning to take her life, but her mom messed up her plans because her mom found stuff that she was planning to take her own life with. Yeah, you feel inside when you look at a human being, a 13-year-old, that said, there's no hope. Nobody will miss me. Completely, she's come in alignment with the voice of Satan. Steal, kill, destroy. We have to bring hope back to this country. Children need hope. Leave them alone. Let them play. Let them dream. Let them experiment with life safely. Do not indoctrinate them. Don't ask Johnny, how dare you say you're a boy? We should call you he, she, it, dolphin, whatever. You're messing up that child's future forever. You're planting a negative seed that will grow. You're confusing a child. You're asking the child to rapidly accelerate outside of the norm that God intended. You're taking hope from the child. We have stolen from children in this country. Not just their innocence, sexually, which this nation better repent on its knees, turn from its wicked way so God can hear the prayer and heal the land. This nation better start warning or the blood is on its hands. But we've also abandoned to bring hope to children, to tell them you're in fact not alone. You in fact should have your own opinion. You should have your own voice. Tell us what you think. Tell us how you think you can solve this problem. Tell us what you see in culture and society. Have you done that as a parent lately? Have you encouraged that ingenuity? Have you encouraged your children to contribute to the solutions and not just talk about the problems? Have you celebrated their unique attributes? Have you celebrated their personality types and personality traits? Their voice, the sound of their voice, how they look. Have you celebrated them in a way where you tell them nothing and no one compares to you? You don't have to compare yourself to anybody. Have you made it crystal clear that no matter what they bring to you as a son, a daughter, a friend, a brother, an employee, that nothing they bring to you can be of such an egregious nature that you disqualify them from life? Or are you one that's disqualifying people? See, I can't even disqualify the pedophile. I can disqualify his actions. I should disqualify and rebuke the spirit that he's in agreement with. But God can change his heart. God can redeem him. What are you? What am I? What are we doing with bringing hope into the conversation? Into every conversation. Point out evil, point out injustice, but then speak hope. What does that look like? I don't know. Maybe it looks like people are arrested without being charged from an event which was a protest. It's unjust. I can speak about that. That is unjust. But here's the hope. My hope is that justice will return, that eyes are opened on the ones who are corrupt, who's allowing this to happen, that they get removed from office, that people will get hope in the system again, that people will say, we're going to pray for those who are now destitute, and we've never prayed like this before. There's always a way to bring hope. There's no situation that God does not turn for good. That doesn't mean it's comfortable for those who go through it. We've lost hope. Our youth is in trouble. They're being targeted as sex objects. They're being told they can't have identity. They're being told they can't be certain of who they are, how they want to dress, what name they want to be called by. Anything that we would say 5 years ago is borderline normal, and what's normal, socially acceptable, customary to the ages, is being challenged, is being turned upside down. It's being yanked, carpet yanked from under them. And then we as a culture just say, now that we did that, now that we stripped you of your identity and your name and your gender and your disbeliefs and dispositions and your likes and dislikes and your thoughts and your own opinion, you thinker, now that we stripped you of all of that, go be happy. Go prosper. But that's right. We had a president of the United States, a vice president of the United States that have said things like people need to think themselves out of inflation. They need to change their minds about this. People need to think themselves out of depression with COVID. The lockdown, they just need to change their minds about this. They need to just change their mind and go, well, this is good for me. Isolation and being silenced and not speaking my opinion and my voice and not asking questions when I see something that's weird, that's actually good for me. No, it's not good for you. You're going to end up morbidly depressed, potentially taking your life. Please don't do that. For those of you who right now are watching this and you go, I am depressed and I have thought of suicide, be real with yourself. I have thought maybe I just don't belong here. Maybe they won't miss me. Maybe the world's better off without me. Those are lies from the pit of hell. You are literally hearing Satan's voice. Recognize it and rebuke it. You cannot, under any circumstance, stand in agreement with that voice. And it's not from God. Oh, I had to learn recently that someone said God told them to kill their family, their children. In a note, murder-suicide. God told a 24-year-old to divorce when there was nothing wrong with the marriage. Another friend of ours, completely decimated by his wife just saying it's not convenient anymore, doesn't fit my narrative. I believe different things than you believe. Here we go. Destroying lives left, right, and center. Do you know that in the divorce rate of America, this is a stat that's going to shock you to the core. In the divorce rate of America, do you know that only 15% of the time it's the husband that files divorce? Listen to what I'm saying. Not that I want it to be 15%. I want it to be 0. But 85% of the time, it's the wife that files divorce. And you'll say, yeah, because the husband's probably a cheater. No. Of the 85% of women filed divorce, under 20% was there any extramarital activity. That's the most recent stats. So why are they divorcing their husbands? They're changing their belief systems. They're letting culture influence them. They're morbidly depressed. They don't feel happy. Do you know the number one reason lawyers say women are filing divorce? They're not feeling happy. Like happy is an entitled right. No, the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of your dreams. You can dream. You can conquer. You can be anything. But when you go through a season when you're not happy, and half the problem is you yourself, not to judge you, but you haven't spoken to anybody truly about being unhappy. You haven't spoken to anybody about your heart hurt. You haven't spoken to your husband or your pastor or a counselor about what happened to you when you were 13 and now you're married and now you're walking out of a marriage because you're not happy. You were not happy before you married the guy. Be real. You haven't been happy for a very long time. And a lot of that, unfortunately, is on you. Not the fact that you became unhappy. People may have abused you, may have misused you, may have lied to you. But if you don't talk about it, that's on you. If you don't ask for help, that is on you. This is why we call sex trafficking victims survivors. When they finally run away, walk away, get rescued, and stay out. If they go back, they're not a survivor. We call them a victim. You need to go from being a victim to a victor, from a victim to a survivor. Whatever it is that's in your life that's causing depression, anxiety, self-loathing, disqualification, how you disqualify yourself. Do you know how many Christians today disqualifies themselves from the kingdom of God, all while telling you their names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life because Jesus died for them? How can it be both? If he died for you, which he did, but if you say he died for you and he paid for you by blood, then you have an eternal reason to be happy. You have an eternal reason to feel like you're worth it. So why is it that so many Christians are committing suicide, are depressed? 55% divorce rate in the church. Again, 85% the women. Because they're not happy. Because you're listening to the wrong voices. There are people in your life, and the voice could be Twitter. A voice could be a pastor. You're listening to voices that are pushing you towards not being happy by having you hyper-focused on the negative and on what's wrong with you, and you can't fix it, and this is culture. Meanwhile, God says truth will set you free. Bring it into the light, and I can heal it. What does that mean? Shine a flashlight on your chest? No. Talk about what's going on inside. Talk to a trusted confidant. Don't talk to don't cast your pearls before swine. This is so vital. We are losing good people, taking themselves out. If it's not suicide, just taking themselves off the field and out of the game because they're depressed, riddled with anxiety and fear. Fear of what? He conquered death. Death has no sting. Be true to the person God created you to be. No, it's not easy. No, it's going to be hard steps. No, you're going to have to get some people out of your life. Love them from a distance. No, you're going to have to set boundaries. You're going to have parameters. You're going to have to tell people to stop. Stop contacting me. Stop communicating. Stop getting into my into my world. You may have to change your habits. You may have to change your language, what you say about yourself. Your tongue may be the sharpest sword against you. The number one voice you may be listening to that's negative for you may be your voice. It's not God's voice. God builds, God edifies, God redeems, God restores. I don't know how to get people to understand how this is all connected. The second you come into agreement that, yeah, my life sucks. Oh, that's just my luck. Oh, it's not going to happen. Oh, I've been disappointed so many times. I'd just rather not try again because I don't want to hurt again. You're going to hurt. You're going to hurt. You're going to hurt when you don't talk to people. That hurts a lot. That hurts way more than talking to somebody and maybe being made fun of, being exposed, your secret not being kept. It hurts way less in the long run than not talking about it. And you know it. But yet you're afraid of taking a bold step to true liberty and freedom. This is the hour where we must start speaking life into every situation. The most dismal situation, I told you, okay, so a child goes and gets a double mastectomy. Jaco, what do you say to that child? After it's done, I got to bring hope. I got to bring light. They're in the darkness. They can't see, stumbling. They're going to break a leg. They're going to get beat up in life. Or we can point that child towards light. Bring people into that child's life that edifies the child, that doesn't want to sexualize the child, that wants to speak hope into culture. So yes, let's highlight the evil. We do. But let's speak hope. We must. Without it, there's no chance. Because it's not a government that's going to mandate happiness. Guess what? New president, and he brings happiness. Doesn't work that way. Nobody else can do it for you. If you go, well, they don't make me happy. No. You're completely codependent now on someone else's behavior. And someone else's behavior determines your happiness. Oh, Jaco, in marriage, that's tough. It's tougher than in friendship. But you can still choose joy and happiness even when your husband and your wife is completely off their rocker. You can still have your own thoughts, your own ideas. You can still be a thinker. You can still let your tongue loose and speak the truth. You can still ask for help and repent of sin. You can do it. You must. In this hour, we must, and we must encourage it. We must celebrate it. That people are willing to take risk to feel and be better. Emotionally, physically, metaphysically, chemically, or you become a statistic. You become a suicide or a complete statistic. We can't afford it. We can't model this for our youth, and parents are modeling this for their children. Fathers are hopeless. If that means you never watch media again, just stop watching media. If that's what it requires. Get off the antidepressants. Go to your doctor and say, listen, man, I want to get off the chemicals. I'm going to tackle this in prayer and fasting. I want sober, clear thoughts. I'm going to cancel the voices of indoctrination in my life. I'm going to actually ask myself, do I believe what I say? Because when people today come in agreement with J.B. Pritzker, they go, rape should not be prosecuted. And they're marching on this. Placards, boards, signs. I want to stop the person and say, truly, you believe that rape should not be prosecuted. What if someone rapes you? Would that be okay? And then you have someone that'll say, yeah, that's okay. Like the people who say, my mother should have aborted me, to make a point that they're pro-abortion. Then that in itself makes my argument about a mental illness in that person. We have major help needed. So please reach out to somebody today when you watch this Ask questions. Are you well? How's your mind? Are you thinking clearly? Can you utter your own thoughts? Are you talking about your hurts and your pains and your disappointments? Are you talking about your own sin? Are you confessing it to God? Are you asking for forgiveness? Are you actively engaging in communicating so that you can get it out of you so it can be healed, so that someone else can pour into you and be a great sounding board? And if you're talking to somebody that's not trustworthy, stop. Find someone that is. But talk about what's going on inside, because we can't. This can't continue. We can't. We can't go to 2 out of 3, 2 out of 6, 3 out of 6 kids between the age of 10 and 16 are depressed. We can't have that. Not in our fight in trafficking. It's detrimental. So please be proactive today to silence the voices that are negative. And I'm not saying all voices that point out evil are negative, but you know if it comes from a negative connotation. If it's edifying, if they expose evil to build culture, expose evil to save people, expose evil to bring a new conversation to the table, that's different. But someone who's exposing evil and then they won't take action and words to back it up, to actually go help heal people, that's just a crybaby. That's someone who's crying wolf, and you can't listen to those people. So please be proactive in investing in yourself. Speak life over yourself. Life and death is in the tongue, says God. Can we just get half a concept of the power of the tongue? What would happen if you start speaking life over yourself, over your nation? Point out injustice, call it out, and then speak life into it. So thank you. I want to bring up something else. There's an amazing coffee company. According to me, the best. Storyville Coffee. Storyville Coffee. Phenomenal coffee. Go to storyville.com online. Subscribe to Storyville Coffee. Why? They've dedicated the whole brand to combat human trafficking and the sexual exploitation of children, to see children dream again. Their logo is a little boy with an airplane called Flyboy. Flyboy is a dreamer. He wants every kid to dream, every kid to have hope. It's everything we just spoke about. So check out this amazing, beautiful coffee brand called Storyville. Go online, subscribe, get yourself some amazing coffee, and in the process, save lives. Help us save lives from human trafficking. God bless you. Thank you so much. Talk to you next time. What? Can you? Yeah. Before you do, let me